Guten Tag, Berlin. Willkommen. Um, my name is Rutger, and I will present you something about creating Europe's first driver's license. So it's great to be back here again in Berlin and to travel again. But to travel again, you have a lot of stress because you have to pack your bags. You're worrying about taking shirts, taking trousers, but that's the only thing you need. And then you leave your door and you are doing the check. You check for your phone, you check for your wallet, you check for your keys. So when you have a bag, you open your bag and you check your bag. Is everything in here? And that's a problem that a lot of people have at this moment. So my name is Rutger. I used to work at Belsimpel, which is the Netherlands' biggest phone retailer, and is expanding to Europe, and is also getting really big at the moment. They are also known as Gomibo in Germany, and there we had an issue with driver's licenses, passports, ID cards that we needed to scan to give people a subscription on a phone. So we went in depth there, and I've learned a lot about passports and ID cards and how it all works, because for most people it's just a card, but there is a technique in it, there's NFC in it, it has to be secure, so you cannot steal or copy an ID. So we made another spin-off called Verify, and we specialized in that point, so we made our own ID verification software, backed by AI, all running on a smartphone. So during that process, I got a lot of expertise about driver's licenses in particular, because every country in Europe is issuing a driver's license via the same standard. So when I go to Germany, for example, I can show my driver's license, and they will understand everything that's on there, even though I'm Dutch. So when that project was a bit finished after 5 years of working, because we've added all driver's licenses and all ID cards and all passports in the whole world, I was ready for something new. So I started to work at New Nexus, which is a small company in the Netherlands. You may not know, I really think you don't know, but we work for a lot of Dutch companies, but also for German companies like Beiersdorf, which is the parent company of Nivea. One of our clients had the same problem I talked about. When you leave your door, you check for your wallet, for your phone, for your keys. But a lot of those things you don't really need anymore, because I don't really check for keys, because I don't need a key at the office, because it all goes via NFC on my phone. I don't need a key for my bike, because it connects to Bluetooth. It is, I think, the most Dutch thing ever to have an over-engineered bike, but it can. That client is the RDW, or the RDW, as we call it in Dutch. It is the Dutch Road Authority. And they came across the problem that people do not check for their wallet anymore, because the only thing they need is their ID or their driver's license. And that's the only thing they need because they pay with Google Pay, they pay with Apple Pay, or their own implementation from the banks. So they came to us with this problem, like, we want to have a mobile driver's license because police are stopping people, but that policeman or woman cannot check for the actual driver's license because people don't take it anymore. They just leave home with their phone and not with their wallet. So they have a big problem because they're stopping people and they don't really know who they are. And we are an app company at New Nexus. So we create apps, we build apps. One of our biggest apps where we work on are, for example, the Dutch Corona Check apps. So if anyone has COVID, you get contact tracing. We also work at Amsterdam Schiphol, so we make a lot of apps. So we said we can probably help you, but we don't really know how it works. So we have to do a bit of research. We want to make a solution for this. I'm going to talk a bit about that solution. So what we made, I'm not going to really go deep dive into the technique because you can just read docs for that, and that's a bit boring, I guess. So I will link to it, but not tell it all. I will just show you what we made. I will also tell a bit about the protocol I told you, because when I go to Germany or to Belgium or to France and I get stopped by the police because I was a bit too hard fahren auf die Autobahn, then I just need to be able that they can check my driver's license. And then I will close again. Because it's a line-in talk, it's 20 minutes, so I have to keep the pace up a bit. So if I go too fast or I talk with a weird Dutch accent, just let me know. So we made this app for the RDW, for the Dutch Road Authority. And they wanted to have all documents in one place on your phone, so in a virtual wallet. It should be easy retrievable via DigiD, and most of you probably don't know what DigiD is, but DigiD is an app by the Dutch government where you can log in, then it is tied to your persona, and it can retrieve things about you without us knowing your number, your security number, and all that kind of things. Things need to be stored securely, because if I have a driver's license, I have to drive to places where there is no phone connections. So we have to download the driver's license on a phone, but it has to be stored securely, because if you are rooted, anybody can access any information on that phone. So if someone downloads the driver's license and it changes the information, yeah, you have a bit of mayhem on some places because you get checks to wrong persons. So this UI is in Dutch, I know, because the app is also in Dutch. But that's the actual app we built. We built it in Compose. So you can retrieve the documents, and it will just stand there in the wallet. And we didn't start with the driver's license, because the driver's license is a much-used document. We have 17 million people in the Netherlands, which isn't that much, because we're a tiny country. But still 17 million people, a lot of them need a driver's license. So we didn't start with that. We started with a thing called in Dutch een eendags kentekenbewijs, which is a difficult word for if you import a car, you need a temporary license plate for that car, because in the Netherlands we do some things different. Here, our license plate is tied to you as a person, so when you sell your car, you mostly keep your plate, but in the Netherlands it's tied to a car. So if you import a car, you need proof that it's yours, and you need a license for 1 day to go to the RDW shop to get it checked, and then you get your license plate. So you need it for 1 day. So we tested it with that. That's also inside this wallet. And a cool thing to say is that we are the world first to make this. We did it together with Google. They worked on the protocol. So for that issue, it's all covered. So a nice thing about a digital driver's license, you might ask, except for getting it, why do you want a digital driver's license? So it's always up to date. If you go to the driving school and you take some lessons for driving a motorbike, for example, at this point in the Netherlands, you have to go to the town hall to make an appointment. They need a picture from you, and then you will get a whole new driver's license. But with a digital driver's license, you can just press renew. Even the thing is, when you walk out of your test and you passed, it should be that easy that 10 minutes later you got a driver's license again, and you can start driving. And all information on a driver's license is signed with certificates by the issuing authority. So for example, the RDW is giving us data. For example, my name. This is my real driver's license data, by the way, except for my social security number, because reasons. So that's my picture from 10 years ago. It's stored on the device, even with that wonky signature from 10 years ago and where I was born. It's all stored and signed with certificates, just a bit like SSL. So it has a chain, and we can validate if everything works. Sounds simple. It's not that simple. Long story short, it also works that way in your current driver's license or passport. Another thing is that you should be able to share that information. But we saw a bit of mayhem with the Corona QR codes, the COVID QR codes that you needed in the Netherlands, because people used to print them or share them, because every single data point in that information was stored in that QR code. So you could just swap the QR codes, even though you did not get a vaccination. So nothing is in here. It's secure because it only contains session information. And what does session information mean? When you are, for example, working at the police, you can scan a QR code. It just does a handshake via that QR code because it contains, for example, a Wi-Fi password or a Bluetooth handshake. And when that's done, it can extract information. You also get no read errors because it's going via Wi-Fi or via Bluetooth. So before, you need, if you have a driver's license or a passport, you got a machine-readable zone on the bottom, which is like your name with a bunch of arrows and things. You probably need it at the airport, but that needs to be read by a camera. And that's really prone to errors. We don't have that anymore. So this is the current flow of the app. I didn't want to do a live demo because I didn't pray to the live demo gods and it would fail. So I made a video. So you can activate your wallet. You can protect it with your fingerprint or a passcode. You have to say, yeah, it's really me. It's some legal stuff. And then you can just retrieve it via the DigiD app. So you also have to authenticate for that. And then it will just say, yeah, do you want to authenticate at the RDW? You are sure. And then you can retrieve the information. So as I told, we already did it for another type of document. And it's already on this technology is already on the phone at 500,000 people right now in the Netherlands. And this is a scoop, by the way. You are the first ones seeing it. It's a proof of concept. So already, a spoiler, we are not rolling it out yet, but we are proving the technology. So that's my face on the big screen. This is how easy it goes. So as I told, you're fahren auf die Autobahn, and the Polizei is there. Said, halt. You're like, OK, I will stop. Then it needs to check your documents. And that goes via the Verifier app, which is a bit wonky over here, because it's just the app to test the protocol for now. But later, every instance they want to create or scan a driver's license can create an app like this, just via the Google libraries. And when you do that, you can read any document you want, because it all has the same protocol. Or at least that's the idea. I mean, in the real world, it will probably differ, but that's the idea. So you scan the QR code, and it only contains session info, as I said. Then it will transfer the data without internet. I told Wi-Fi, but I meant Wi-Fi direct. So if you have two phones, you can just scan that QR code. It makes a connection via Wi-Fi direct, so you don't need a router or something. It just connects between phones, or via Bluetooth, or via NFC. And then it shares the information and checks all the certificates. So the scanning, the authority that's scanning also has a part of the certificate chain. And with the data, it can check if the chain is complete and if it really works. And then you get the result you want. So that's not all. Because now when you're going to a hotel, for example, I just checked in here yesterday, and they always want to see your passport. And when they take your passport, they go to a copy machine, they put it underneath, they put it in a folder somewhere, and you're like, where is my information going? Because when you scan a passport, you've got all that information from that person. You can even go to the government with all that information and get some kind of subsidy on your name, because you get the social security number, you get the name, you get the date of birth. So please be careful with sharing information. That's a tip. With this case, someone that scans your driver's license, for example, can choose what kind of data they want. So if they want to see your first name and your what categories of driver's license you have, they can just pick it out of a menu, and they will only get that data. So when the police is making an app like this, they could just make a link between felonies, for example. So if you're skipping a red light, they can need other information. And in that way, we preserve the privacy of the user, and we really think you've got more privacy with a digital driver's license than with a real, there's also real, but a real driver's license. Which is a bit you wouldn't really know that because, or think that, because it's probably connected to the internet, people can log it, but no, everything is stored on your device. So how does it work? Everything works via the Android X security or Jetpack library, which contains the whole protocol. And this whole protocol I keep talking about is the following. It's ISO 18013. And what does ISO 18013 do? Well, it's the protocol where all your driver's licenses are made of, but anywhere in the world. So if you go to the USA, it should work, but also for the mobile driver's license. So they put it in an ISO standard. They made it a -5, so it's like an attachment to the original ISO standard. So it works the same way as your driver's license internally. So when you scan that with NFC or scan this with NFC, it should work in a familiar way with namespaces, with information on that card. And also the checks, the security checks. And I have a slide right now, and I didn't really know if I wanted to include it, but it was a tech conference, so I've added it. And it's a bit long, but otherwise I would just talk about this beautiful case and not really go into the real depths. So what happens is we've got some actors in this whole flow. We've got the RDW, which is the IA, that stands for Issuer Authority. That can also be like the German, how do you say it? Like the Germans that hand out the driver's license, or in France. You've got the RDW app, which is the app for the consumers. And that app has some flow inside of it. It communicates with the identity credential hardware abstraction layer, for example. And what is a hardware abstraction layer? If you're not familiar with that, your camera also, on Android, also uses the hardware abstraction layer, and it's just like a bit of a translation, to simplify it in the sentence, between your hardware and your software, so you don't have to communicate via bytes with your camera. We have the same for the identity credential. And why is that? Because identity credentials are securely stored on your secure enclave, which is on your processor, on your chip. It lives on the same place as where your fingerprint lives. So, and I know that if you crack that chip, you get like $1.5 million. So if you want to get rich, you can try it. But they didn't really succeed in that yet, as far as I know. So it's securely stored. So how does it work? We check for a new identity credential at the issuing authority. And the issuing authority is like, oh yeah, you logged in with this DigiD, so we know where you are. You've got some new documents. But we sent you a challenge first. And with that challenge, which is kind of a UUID, you can create a new identity credential on your phone. When it gets created, it gets securely stored via the hardware abstraction layer on your secure enclave. And it creates a new credential key with that virtual document and a secret. With that together, it creates a certificate chain. And with that certificate chain, you've got the whole chain except for the public key from the issuing authority yet. So you make your own chain, they make your chain. You send it all back, and the issuing authority is combining the chain. So you've got a long chain. But if only one thing of that chain differs, your document will be invalid. So when that works, when everything is okay in that chain, we have all kinds of succession. But when it goes good, it will send you the data items. You can store it in your secure enclave. You send it back with a receipt. Like when you go to the supermarket, you do a purchase. You get a receipt, and with that receipt is your proof that you bought it. This is like the same way you have a proof that you securely saved it, and that your phone is also secure. It also uses safety net underwater. If there's, for example, a breach in processors where the secure enclave is cracked, we had some for example, some Huawei phone that all use the same key on every secure enclave for a specific model. We can just put that into the issuer authority, and then that certificate chain for that certain model will be invalid. And we can pinpoint that all the way down to a specific model, or even if you are rooted, because if you're rooted, the certificate chain will be different than if you're not rooted. And you cannot really, so far, could possibly, I don't know, I haven't really tried it, but they say you cannot circumvent that. So the issuing authority checks the receipt, and then it creates authentication keys. And those authentication keys are important. I have to check the time. I have to speed up a bit, because if you get your QR code scanned by a policeman or woman, it will use one authentication key for every transaction. So if you got stopped like 5 times or 10 times or whatever is in the config, then you need to refresh your document, and you get some new keys. So when the connection is finished, you transfer your documents, you cannot use that same session anymore to send the same document, because you need a new authentication key. I will hurry a bit up, because otherwise you're late for lunch, and that would suck, I guess. So, to close this thing, when can you use a digital driver's license? Because if you don't have a wallet anymore, that would be cool, I guess. I'm waiting for that. Also, this is not investment advice, but if you are investing in a wallet company, I don't know if that's a good idea anymore. But we actually launched this tag with the RDW in Q4 of last year for the one-day registration certificate for importing vehicles. And we do that because we can test it on 500,000 people if this technology is really working, if there are bugs. And in the first quarter of this year, we've added this actual driver's license as a proof of concept. And I'm the only one in the Netherlands with this driver's license, so that's kind of funny, but it doesn't even have value anymore, because if I get stopped by the police, they're like, yeah, cool, a QR code, what's this? And you're like, yeah, that's my driver's license. And they're like, no, you're not. And then you get a big fine. I don't really want that, so I don't use it yet, but I'm the first. So that's kind of a cool flex to have, I guess. Later this year, RDW is working on expanding the wallet. And these are not really promises I can make, but we are looking at adding registration cards for your vehicle, for your drone, for everything that flies or moves. The RDW wants to have that in your wallet. And you can even try this technology yourself. So if you go to GitHub via this QR code, if you scan the other QR code, you probably got rickrolled, so this one won't, this one goes to GitHub. And if you fork or download this project, you get multiple apps on in your repository, which one is the consumer app, so you can test the technology yourself. You've got a reader app, so if you have 2 phones, you can install them on both phones, and you can really see how the technology works. And it also has a server, because you need a backend. You need the issuer authority that sends you driver's licenses or passports or ID cards. And this one is different than the Jetpack, because this one is a bit ahead of it. It's still in development. The Jetpack is working on a draft of the ISO protocol, and this one is working on the final version. So if you want to get started with this, because you can also add use this tag for employee badges, for example, because it's a really secure way to save identity. And in the future, and that's my closing thing, in the future you can also link documents together. So if you are a policeman, you want to have multiple documents, then you can request multiple documents, and you just have to approve as a holder. So that was my lightning talk about the driver's license. Thank you for coming.